Hey, this is Detroit Bob, and a good day of finding vinyl records starts with a haircut and a visit to my musical consultant, Danielle. So here we are. I'm going to look 100% better. I'm going to feel 100% better. Then I'm going to scour the region for some vinyl. All right, Detroit Bob, I got a call in to one of my favorite thrift shops, and we're gonna swing by and see if they have anything for me. Last week's episode, Stone Soup, was a big hit. Rockmine has had up to 30,000 views, so if you haven't subscribed, check it out and get on board. Hey, this is Detroit Bob, and we're going to do something a little bit different this week on Rockmine. We are going to look at all these boxes, and we are going to reveal what's inside just one of them. So unboxing a box or a mystery box of records is sometimes a lot of fun. Now, each of these has its own unique story, how I got it, where I got it, what's inside of it. So we're going to pick out one, and then we're going to break it down and go through everything that's inside of the box and have a major unboxing of some classic vinyl 45s. These aren't going to hold LPs. They're not big enough, but they are super cool. They're super collectible, and I just picked them up along the way. So stick with me. You're going to find out what the mystery box holds, and we're going to have a really cool reveal at the end of this episode. So what is it going to be? Is it going to be the psychedelic swirl? Is it going to be the geometric sort of blue, green matrix? Are we going back to the old platter pack dance edition with extra capacity? Or are we going to do with the wallpaper psychedelic 60s look? How about the Craftsman double wide? I'll tell you what it's going to be. It's going to be this one right up top. It's going to be this one right here. And I will tell you, it is heavy. So there's going to be some good stuff in here. And remember, this is the original Tunes Tote trademark. So this is modern. I got this from Johnny, but it's packed full of goodies, and it's been hand curated by Detroit Bob himself. So stick around. We're going to do the reveal on this baby next, and you're going to be blown away by the quality and the color that pop out of this box. Stay tuned. Hey, this is Detroit Bob. We're in the Rock and Roll Rockmine laboratory. This is my new storage system. It holds up to 15,000 45s, and that helps me stay organized, which is important because I'm selling this stuff. You know, I definitely sell some of my collection on Discogs. I just sold a Van Morrison record that I bought for $5 for $111 yesterday. So I want to have a rotating collection of about 10,000, and if I don't move merchandise, then I'm going to get 20,000 and 100,000 and officially be called a hoarder. We don't want that to happen. So the good thing is that you can own a part of the Rockmine. Just look Detroit Bob up on Discogs. But you can also, I can also get these into the hands of other people that are going to enjoy and appreciate them. Maybe it's a kid that's just getting into classic rock or punk or new wave. So I've got all that for sale, and you can, for a relatively inexpensive price, have a little piece of great music, a lot of times original. So let's get started. Remember, one of those boxes we decided we were going to pick out, and it's this one here. So this is a sort of a retro styling, or we called this the Tunes Tote. It's modern, but it's made to look old. I would dare say it's got like a little ska era, and my British friends know what I'm talking about there. Think English Beat, the Special, something like that, 80s. It's got the little handle, the carrying case, but what does it have in it? Well, let's check that out. Well, it turns out it's loaded with records, and this became a collection within a collection for me. And before we go through it, let me explain that. During COVID, I started collecting 45 RPM records. Basically, I bought a jukebox, I restored it, and I thought, yeah, before I get this jukebox, I better start getting some records. Well, found out all my LPs I had given away to my kids, and they weren't giving them back. So I started figuring, well, I got to load up that jukebox, right? Well, that led me on this quest to get some great stuff for my jukebox. and also the quest to find the ultimate elusive Beatles with 2 T's on VJ number 498. But it also led me back to, well, how do I build a collection? Oh, Columbia House. I just send in a penny and they send me 13 45s, right? No, not in existence anymore. BMG, out of existence. All these record clubs are gone. So there's a few out there, but it's a different format. So finally I landed on Jack White's page. Third Man Records, he calls it. It's his record company. Now, the backstory of Jack White is pretty interesting. I'll get into that in a minute. But if you look at what he's done with his record company, combined with what he's done of his career, and the fact that he's from Detroit like I am, it makes him a really compelling artist company to do business with. So the first 45 and the first one we'll review, we're going to go through all these, so buckle down and stay with me. That caught my eye when I went on his website was this right here. Now, my sisters used to go see the Bob Seger System, okay? And you might know Ramblin' Gamblin' Man. Maybe you don't know 2 Plus 2, but I sure did, because if you lived in Detroit in the late 60s, early 70s, this was all over the radio. I had never seen this artwork before, and I thought maybe I had seen that artwork. So Ivory is the backside, the B side. So 2 Plus 2 is on my mind. If you know this song, then you'll know it's a great sounding garage rock. And this is a reproduction that, sure enough, Third Man Records has done in their factory. Now look at the artwork. The one thing about Jack White, I did read a book about the White Stripes. He is not your usual cat. You know, he started with this concept of sort of minimalism, but he tends to go really good on the color. This reminds me of WOC out of the Palmer area radio station in 1929, the early record tower. In this case, he's really zeroed in on the black and the yellow and the white. If you go back to the White Stripes era, it was obviously the red, white, and black. So this guy's an interesting guy. And in my art student mind, I think I know what he was trying to do. You know, I think he was trying to give some limitations on what he did color-wise, but he really built this construct based on this minimalist approach, not only to the design and decoration of his records, but the sound. So when I heard this, and this is when I'm driving my kids to school in probably 2001, 2002, fell in love with a girl. I nearly knocked myself out of my seat in my 92 Dodge minivan Caravan. Fortunately, I had a 7-speaker Bose system rocking in that thing. But I was dropping the kids off at school. Very, very great buzzsaw type song, just ripping through the airwaves. I think it's 1 minute and 53 long. I had to go out and get the CD immediately, and I devoured it. The B-side on this is I Just Don't Know What to Do With Myself. Now, I think it was their third album. So by this time, I'm hearing the White Stripes for the first time, but they've had 2 or 3 years to percolate, if not 5, in the Detroit area, relatively unknown. And here, Jack White gives it a modern pressing. I'm sure there was an original pressing of this that's probably a lot more valuable. But look at the color scheme there. You have the radio tower with the electromagnetic radio waves coming off of the tower, and he's on the black and the white. And it's just a great looking design and so collectible. So at this point, I'm thinking, you know, I love the music. I have the 45. Does he have more? So yeah, I joined what he calls the vault. So Jack White's not stupid. He knows if he's going to make it in the business. He has to entice people to buy. And when you join the vault, and this is a free commercial for Jack, I love what he's doing and I love his company, and he's a fellow Detroiter. And when you join the vault, you get 10% off of everything. So, you know, these are like very affordable. They're like between $7 and $10, you know, depending if they're in stock. Now, he does limited runs, so a lot of this stuff is not always going to be available. So I started collecting them. Hotel Yorba, off of the same album. And, but it's definitely, you get a little glare there. It's definitely more of a folky, front porch, stomp your foot type song, and very cool. It didn't make the Rated X, I found out later, which is the B-side on this single, is a Loretta Lynn song. I found that out much later, and look up her version of it. But it's a, you know, and then it suggests that, hey, you know, what's this kid from Detroit? What are his influences? You know, I always say you can tell a lot by a person by looking through the record collection. You can tell a lot about an artist by what records he covers and puts out. So this isn't just some punk without a deep knowledge of his predecessors in the industry. When you're doing a Loretta Lynn song and combining it with one of the hits off your current LP and then ending up pressing it on vinyl, you're taking the extra mile. But here's the classic white striped look, red, black hair, and in case you're wondering, that's Meg. And so Meg was the drummer. And, you know, the rumor, were they brother or sister, were they married? I don't care about any of that, but there was a lot of mystique built up around that too. All I know is it sounded great, and I'm like, wow, Fell in Love with a Girl sounds like an angry punk, sort of whiny, screamy, but then this sounds sort of like, almost like country. So I'm like, ooh, there's more layers to this guy than what I thought. So moving on through these singles, as I collected them, they're all numbered, by the way. So this is TMR number 169. So with the Fell in Love with a Girl, and then every one thereafter is a little 3-digit number. Dead Leaves on the Dirty Ground, off the same album as the previous two I just mentioned. This is really, really cool artwork. You just don't get that kind of artwork on a 45. Now he's committed at this point to the hard sleeves, and same design on the inside. Very cool. How would I describe that song? It is a deep, sort of dark, brooding song. I don't know how else to describe it. So at this point, I'm a full-bore White Stripes fan. So I'm into the whole thing. It turns out I think Jack White went to Catholic school. So anybody, I always say, a lot of creativity comes out of that dance between the sacred and the secular. The altar boy, the whole thing. Growing up in Detroit, going to high school in Detroit, he went to Castac, I went to Borges. Borges was like 4 blocks outside of the city limits, but most of my classmates were Detroiters and taught me a lot about that city. I think, as a matter of fact, for our Spanish class, we may have went to Jack White's neighborhood for the Mexican restaurant down there. There's a famous one we went to, and that was our field trip. So follow the red stripes along, and you probably know Salvation Nation Army. Dun, 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 dun. Every soccer stadium, every football team plays this thing. This thing is a great, great disc. Moving right along. So I'm starting to collect this. I go to Europe, and I get one of their later releases, Rag and Bone. And it came out one of their later albums. Rag and Bone is a really, real cool song, sort of a call and answer with a long intro, sort of a talking intro. You White Stripes fans will know what I'm talking about. But it turns out like his European editions and releases are total different than the US. But you can see the artwork is more advanced now, but it's still sort of that black and white look, which he committed to. Fast forward, Jack White, The Hardest Button to Button. We did this in our band. I always thought this was a really, really cool song. It's got a punky blues sound to it. It's very minimalist. B-side on that, Ides of March. I can't remember off the top of my head how that one goes. So now I'm starting to pick these things up as I go along, so I got 2 copies of that. So that's Third Man number 264, in case you're counting. So I always go into the back catalog, so you get into some of the early stuff, and they were really committed to the red and white. Lafayette blues, and you realize, oh, Sugar Never Tasted So Good. He's doing old blues stuff. Turns out, you know, another one of my theories is that a lot of people get their musical knowledge from older brothers and sisters. Turns out he's the 10th of 10 kids, the 7th of the sons, 7th son. So he's learned a lot of this stuff from old records, probably. Let's Shake Hands, Third Man number 88. So I don't know if he's up into the thousands on these. I've probably got about 40 of these in this box. The White Stripes, I love this. The Big Three Killed My Baby. Unless you're from Detroit, you might not know what the Big Three are. You know, the Big Three were the Big Three auto companies. So he's taken the Detroit mythology, or, you know, he's taken like regular Detroit slang, and in this, all this stuff went really big over in London and in the UK. I forget his name, but the DJ over there, he broke a lot of artists, and he fell in love with the White Stripes, so I invited him over. John Peel. So if you were played by John Peel, you were definitely accepted in the alternative rock punk community. This one's I Don't Know What to Do With Myself, a great song. Sort of like almost a loungy sound to it. I don't know how else, but look at the artwork. It continued on really, really well. So this guy's not, I mean, this isn't a runoff. There's No Home for You Here. There's a silhouette of, you know, this guy's got a real cool vibe on the artwork. My dad would have liked this stuff, and my dad was an art teacher, of course, in Metro Detroit for 35 years. So White Stripes, going back to the Lord Send Me an Angel. Hey, you're looking pretty good. So look at the art. I mean, you could just have a collection of the White Stripes. I mean, that's how cool they are. So look at the artwork on this. And Handsprings. I went back and got a lot of their old stuff in their catalog. And you can do that in the vault. If you join the vault, you get 10% off. I think you get these for like $6.70, which is, you know, that's not expensive. They're very collectible. Very cool. Now Jack White goes solo, of course, and this is some of his newer stuff. Different, you go monochromatic here. I'm Shakin' is a great cover. Ba-dum-bump, 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 ba-dum-bump. You know the song, right? You should. If not, listen to it. It's a great, great song off that album. And this is his more modern stuff. Freedom at 21. And of course, he does a little, you know, the older lady and the younger lady. You know, is it the same person? Are they in a time warp? You know, there's like multi-dimensional stuff going on there for the viewer. And I love that. You know, you got to believe Love Interruption. There's Jack himself. He's got the wild, pale look. He's got that down to a T, I believe. And once again, 16 Saltines. This was a good one. You know, this man may die. There's always life and death, and it runs through a lot of his iconography. Like I said, he may have contemplated that back in school or when he was an altar boy, I don't know. Lazaretto, it took me a while to find this one, and it was out of print, I believe, for a while. They sent me the album once. That was sort of cool. I ordered the 45. But, you know, notice like now in this series of releases, he's gone to the blue color scheme. So he seems to pick out a color scheme. And I saw him on this last tour this year, and it was this kind of blue. So I'm like, now I've seen where he's gone through the red, the black and white, and the yellow. So I got 2 of these. Oh, that's another one off that color scheme. So that's the Black Bat Licorice, Third Man 301. Very cool. You know, this was like, what is this? Some kid, you know, growing up in the city playing with licorice or something? I don't know. You know, it's sort of weird. And all these have the similar back, these last few. And this one is Would You Fight for My Love? Some of these I found repriced for, you know, $4. Okay. I don't think these things are gonna like skyrocket in value because you can still get them. What will happen? You'll save these, you'll collect these, and you'll give them to your grandkids, and then at some point, Third Man Records may still be around, but they're like, "Oh, do you have the early stuff?" Yeah. So don't look for this unless it's a limited edition or he stops printing, which he does on some of these. He's limited release. Some of the stuff is like in-store only, vault members only. I noticed the pricing goes up on that, which I'm not collecting this stuff. I'm probably not even gonna sell it. This is not his last album, the one before. So I can't even tell you off the top of my head what it was called. It was a great album. That's where I sort of jumped in. And once again, this had another little color scheme with these bricks, this little theme that runs through all his artwork and albums. So I love that, something almost like the wall and the hand breaking down the wall, I don't think he's copying from Pink Floyd, The Wall, but I definitely know that. And, obviously there's a theme. And he's got the slick back hair, taking me back. This is really, really good. This is off of his latest release. And then Taking Me Back Gentle, he does, and the album's called Entering Heaven Alive, right? The gentle version. So he does an acoustic version of the same song. And he's got a guy that he plays with, and he's released an album on his label called Pokey Lafarge. And this guy's like a throwback, like some Mississippi River, busker or something. But I love his sound, and he plays with Jack on some of these songs. Third Man, number 769. And here we are, this Eclipse of the Moon one. Fear of the Dawn is sort of dark and brooding. But this is the tour we just saw him on. Jack White, vocals, drums, bass, guitars, synthesizers, percussion, theremin. Anybody who plays a theremin, and if you know Brian Wilson, he definitely featured the theremin in Good Vibrations. So this is the latest tour. The artwork's a little bit different. You got the Jack White with the slick back hair. Well, you're getting up to 849, so he's probably going to have to go into the thousands on his numbering system. But how cool is this collection? You didn't know that this was all in this box, right? I'm only halfway through, so we might have to edit some of that. But look at that. Cool looking. I went ahead and just got every one as they came out. Heidi Ho. I'll tell you what. This guy could have just cashed in a long time ago and said, "Oh, I'm done." But he's committed, I don't think he's going anywhere. This is a long haul type artist. So if you wanted an artist to follow for the rest of your life, I sincerely believe Jack White will be doing this into his 80s. Now, this was really cool during COVID. If you remember, somebody canceled on Saturday Night Live, so they called up Jack White and can you fill in? And he just freaking rocked it. The next day, did you see Jack White on Saturday Night Live? He just rocked it. So Jack just immediately puts out a 45. Jack White on Saturday Night Live, 10, 11 of 20. And he did like a mashup, Don't Hurt Yourself, Ball and Biscuit, Jesus Is Coming Soon. And then side 2, Lazaretto. So he mixes in some religious intonation and iconography and lyrics here and there, which is interesting. Like I said, there's a lot of sacred, secular back and forth in this guy's artwork, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. Jack can sit down and do, acoustic stuff. He's got a great double CD, like demos of all these songs. And he's got that country side to him too. So you got this guy that's got punk, he's got metal, he's got heavy metal, he's got blues, he's got folk, and he's got all this in. Here's a cool one he did. You Are the Sunshine of My Life with the Muppets. So anybody from Detroit knows that's a Stevie Wonder song, a big hit, probably around, Songs in the Key of Life, 76, something like that. So Jack probably heard that song growing up and reminded him of his childhood, and probably said, hey, I'll do something with the Muppets. Jack White did a James Bond song with Alicia Keys. He produced Loretta Lynn's Grammy-winning album called Van Leer Rose. Pick that up. My God, was that a great album. The Rock on Tour. So he leaves the White Stripes. He goes on and forms this band, Steady As She Goes. It got a lot of airplay in Chicago on a station called WXRT. It was a great little song. But, you know, oh my gosh, Jack White. But this Brendan Benson, you see him pop up a lot. He's a member of the Rock on Tours. Very talented guy. And for Jack to collaborate, that was like a big deal for us, for fans. Now, you know this guy has some respect for the roots because he reissues all these old chests on the original. He sort of goes, he deviates from his decoration scheme and goes back to like the original retro look. So this is Rocket 88 by Jackie Brenston. Some people consider it the first rock and roll song of all times. I like some of the early Louis Jordan stuff for that title, the pre-Little Richard, Louis Jordan. This one, Ichiban Limited Edition. Wow, look at that. Oh, yeah. I got it on the yellow vinyl. So this one's really valuable. I think it was Vault members only that could get this. So I'm like, yeah, I got to get that. I haven't even listened to it yet, but how collectible is that? I mean, just look at that. Tamla. That was one of the original Motown labels. So he's got that covered on that little piece of artwork there. So that's very, very cool. A little different here. We're going through these one by one. Look at Money by Barrett Strong. Right? That's probably the original design of the Tamla label that he's recreated. It's got the address of 2648 West Grand Boulevard. Jobette Music. So he's really, he really respects Motown. I know he's from Detroit, but he's just, as an artist, he's very well versed, and he does a lot of releases respecting, and even Bob Dylan. He put out a nice Bob's box set, and Blind Willie McTell. So I think a lot of people, Jack White himself may have been responsible for this vinyl craze because he literally bought all the equipment to start pressing records and went into the business full bore. But he made it collectible. This guy, Beck, when Beck's doing a 45 on your label, probably is a one-off, but that's pretty cool too. So I picked these up. The Jesus and Mary chain. Saw these guys in Brixton in 1987. They do a release from the Fox Theater in Detroit. Been there before. The Mainstay downtown. I think they've renamed it. Something they might have called it. Everything's the Fillmore, right? Get Rhythm by Johnny. And then I Walk the Line as the B-side. So he's releasing some of these old standards. Here we got the Ooby Dooby by Roy Orbison. Gotta love that one. And I don't know Go Go Go, but that. And then this rare Elvis on Sun that he found the 78 on, My Happiness. So he puts out a little Elvis love there. So we're almost through this box. Chuck Berry, Back in the USA. So Chess Records is represented, and I think he's trying to give you kids like, hey, this is a musical education, so you might like all this stuff. And we're almost through this box, so let's go through these quick. Kate Pearson from the B-52s, so maybe some of these artists are on the back end of their career, and he does them a favor by, literally featuring them and bringing them to a new audience. So that's totally cool. I bought that one. I got another copy of that one just because. Sort of got a, was it Mondrian who did that artwork, Bauhaus, that movement. Sort of a cool, almost different type of artwork. Another band he played with, the Dead Weather. So Johnny got me this one. The female lead singer on this is just fantastic. Of course, I won't remember her name off the top of my head. She's credited as Baby Ruthless, but I know that's not her name. Moyhart. Johnny would remind me of that. And then stuff like this, Shovels and Rope. My daughter's like, hey, Dad, you like these guys? Yeah. Well, it turns out they got a Third Man record release, so I picked it up. And then this one was a 7-inch that he released with the Miles Davis repackaging on the Vault. So what I'm going to tell you is join the Vault. This is a free commercial for Third Man. I hope somebody listens to it. Join the Vault. Go to Third Man and start collecting their 45s or their LPs. I think the Vault costs like $300 a year. So, but you get 4 releases, quarter releases, and you don't know what they are. They're usually an LP or a box set of LPs combined with a 45, and there's always a little, seems to be like a little extra stickers or charts or graphs, or sometimes there's a patch like that you can sew on your shirt. But it's all about the gimmies. Now, apparently he's going to be releasing all the original Sun 45s, and I could have this wrong, that Elvis put out, or at least like the first 6 or 7 in some type of a Vault release coming up. So I'm going to do an unboxing just on that. So it's all good. Remember, it all started with this box, and then I just filled the box. This could be your whole 45 collection. You know, the value on this, just in this box, I got probably $500 to $1,000 on the value, but who cares? Look at the pictorial and the collectible value. Look at the love he's given to the 45. Every one of those is professionally designed by artists, and there's a concept, there's a meeting. It's almost like putting out designer clothing. There is, from conception to design to production, there is a very well thought of business plan here. And what we want is, we want to support the people that are putting the time and effort into that versus just releasing something in this. You know what I mean? So that's what we want. Detroit Bob here. That's a little bit different of a wrap up. I'm glad I got to do it. It still is part of our series Rockmine every week, and we do it. And stay tuned. I'm going to do Gem of the Week next. Hey, this is Detroit Bob, and welcome back. Now, our Gem of the Week is right here. The Bob Seger System 2+2. With the original artwork, which I believe was only available on the French version when it was originally released, backed with ivory. Now, you may or may not recognize that artwork, but the reason I remember it, it was on this album right here. The song was originally on the Bob Seger System, and this was sort of almost a psych. You notice the shape of the state of Michigan there? A lot of people didn't catch that. But this is the album that song came off of. And there it is, that artwork, that psychedelic artwork. I think Kev's sister had this album, and I used to just look at that and think, what the heck? That guy's hair just grew flowers. But 2+2 is on my mind, has a great riff in the middle of it, sort of during the break, and it almost sounds like Seven Nation Army. So I think it's a nod to Bob Seger, garage rock, and maybe even to that little riff that Jack White put out. It's a great album. How much is it worth? Well, if you got the original French version, it's going for median value $28. This version on Discogs, I could probably get between $10 and $15. I'll look it up and I'll post the price. Keep collecting those 45s. We'll see you next time. We're getting back on the road, and we're going to dig in to some record shops. We got Florida coming up again. We have Kansas City coming up again. We got Quebec City, Canada coming up. We have Hawaii coming up. So you're going to not want to miss an episode. Follow Detroit Bob and rock on, brothers and sisters. 2+2 is on my mind.